Almost 80% of children in the UK are suffering from bereavement. A child loses a parent every 22 minutes. That's one child in every classroom that loses a loved one every single day.
Talk about cancer and stuff, I don't like it because my granddad died of cancer as well.
I really feel 100% confident sending the kids to school.
Slowly coming down and she just dropped dead. And then we have her ashes in my house right now.
However, not a single school in the UK has a response bereavement plan in place. A recent study was conducted this year by Cambridge University's Faculty of Education department alongside the bereavement charity Winston's Wish. They discovered that government and school policies on mental health and bereavement has led to a lot of confusion and disagreement on the forms of support schools should be offering the bereaved. We spoke to mother of three, Denise, who lost her mom last year in November to cancer, and her three boys who also lost their grandmother. She shared with us her disappointment at the lack of support the primary school gave her children whilst they were grieving.
Losing anybody in life is going to be really hard anyway. It hit me hard, so I knew that it was going to hit them just as hard anyway. And as much as I was supporting them at home, obviously I was worried that they weren't going to get the same sort of support when they was at school. Nobody really talks to anyone about things like that, especially when it comes to school time. They don't really have conversations like that in school, so it's like you don't really feel 100% confident sending your kids to school, knowing that they don't talk to them about it.
So I found going back to school very difficult. I think you get this real sense when someone dies that time stops because your whole world has stopped, and you live in a bubble for a bit where you just don't do anything. You kind of just sit there and contemplate what your life has turned into, and when you step back into your old routine, you realise how much time has kept moving forwards, and that's really difficult. But I had an amazing support network at school. My head of year made sure I had every option possible, and he actually gave me some control back in my life. He said I could leave lessons when I wanted to, and he gave me that power. And there's something about death that leaves you feeling very powerless.
I lost my mum when I was 10. She had a heart attack because she was an alcoholic. I remember going out of my class, being asked to step outside, and I think they actually told the whole class while I was stood outside what had happened, and then when I came inside it was just like everyone kind of being a bit like, oh wow, it was just like a really sad atmosphere.
Did you like that?
No, it just wasn't very nice. It kind of felt a bit exposed in a way.
According to recent findings, 1 in 10 children find it extremely difficult to go back into their normal school routine as they feel different from the rest of their classmates after experiencing traumatic loss. We spoke to Cambridge researcher Martin, who gave us more insight into this issue.
I found in my research is that, and it makes sense that children are seldom prepared for the experience of bereavement. They haven't been taught about this. They don't have any previous experience on loss. So they often go from being in a home who has been relatively safe, something well known, and a comfortable place. And suddenly the remaining parent might be in severe grief, and there might be a lot of chaos in that family. So it's not uncommon that there is a desire to return to school, to get back to a place that's normal, where everything is as it used to be. But of course, what the child doesn't realize when it returns to school is that it's going to bring its grief with it into that environment. And I think, let's just imagine going back into school, opening the doors, you're going down this corridor and you see all these people looking at you, they're talking to each other. And you're wondering whether, are they talking about me? Do they know what's happened? You might meet a few teachers who come up quickly, say, my condolences, I'm really sorry, move on. You thought you were going back to this normal school and it suddenly completely changed. You go back into your classroom and you meet your friends and your classmates there, and they have no training either. They have no experience with laws or with how to talk to you about it, so they don't know what to say. You don't, as the child, know what to say because you don't have that experience either. And quite often, the teacher might not know what to say either. And that makes it kind of environment where we might try to talk about it a few times, but it doesn't really go that well. So we make this collective decision that it's probably better not to talk about it.
Apart from the difficulties of returning back to school, most bereaved children begin to suffer many other challenges, such as social and behavioural difficulties. Experienced child psychotherapist Deborah Hill explains what goes through a child's mind whilst grieving.
When a child has a significant loss, they tend to go back psychologically to an earlier time when they felt safer. They may do that. And what this means behaviorally is that a child who's toilet trained, for example, may start wetting the bed again and having accidents at school and that sort of thing. A child who's learned to be independent may start being a little bit like a 2-year-old who's a little bit maybe clingy and doesn't like to leave mom or dad. And so that's what happens behaviorally. Developmentally, you might have some temper tantrums, things like that, because little children may not be able to express grief in the same way that an adult would. So they are just experiencing loss as frustration and something